This is Mark L. White with Health Hacks, and today we have a special guest, Dr. Tracy Gapin. Dr. Gapin runs the Gapin Institute up in Sarasota, right?
That's right.
And I met you for the first time a few months ago, and then I saw you again at the Biohackers show. That was interesting. It's funny to see all those people like looking at stuff in the future.
Cool stuff. A lot of cutting edge fun stuff there. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything that really stood out in your eyes? Like any next frontier stuff?
Yeah, great question. It kind of goes along with a lot of what I'm working on, and that is a lot of data-driven stuff. Whether we're looking at biometric data, looking at, tracking our performance, a number of devices there to track performance, a number of great companies that promote really advanced diagnostic testing, whether it's looking at genetics, whether it's looking at advanced, biometric aging. We have ways of actually measuring our biologic age, which is fascinating. And so a lot of this data-driven concept, which is really the foundation of what I do and my practice and my emphasis is on that personalized data-driven approach. So for me, it was a lot of fun. I loved it.
Great. I know I actually got your book, Mail 2.0. Very approachable. It's amazing how approachable it is, talking about the Gapin code and all the things with mindset. We'll get into that. But how did you get into preventative wellness? Like, tell me about your journey.
Yeah. Thanks so much. So I'm a board certified urologist. I've been doing men's health now for over 20 years. And I went through the traditional Western medicine, medical school at University of Texas Southwestern. And then I did urology training for 6 years at University of Florida. And then I joined a very busy, high volume urology practice here in Sarasota 17 plus years ago now. And after many years, I started becoming aware of the fact that traditional medicine is nothing more than crisis care. It's disease care medicine. We stamp out disease. If you have a kidney stone, if you have prostate cancer, if you have an infection, whatever it may be, we're here to help you. But we do nothing more than get men to this crummy neutral. And that's where we kind of stop. And we actually have this medical term called no evidence of disease, or NED, for someone with cancer. That means that basically we're done and we congratulate ourselves and pat ourselves on the back and we say, we'll see you in 6 months to a year for a follow-up. And so NED is the goal. And again, to me, that's really just some crummy baseline. And it was not until I went through some health challenges of my own, Mark, where I was having issues with tremendous weight gain. I was about 25 pounds overweight. I felt like crap. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't taking care of myself. And I really neglected my own health for the sake of my patients and my practice and my career. And when I went to a medical doctor here for my first physical ever, it was scary, but it was very eye-opening to realize that we as traditional healthcare doctors here in the US, we don't have the tools to optimize men's health. We only have the capacity to get to the neutral. And that's what got me on my quest to learn how to optimize myself and to be able to help the men I work with. And that got me incredibly excited and passionate about really taking men's health to the next level, to really change the paradigm and shift the focus more on prevention, on personalization, on using data, biometric data to really track outcomes, and to incorporate genetics and wearable tech and incorporate a lot of functional aspects like nutrition and sleep and stress, which are so incredibly important and I think are overlooked.
Now, when you left traditional urology, what was the response? Were you leaving a group practice or?
Yeah, great question. I was in a high volume 5-man group practice, and we would see, each of us would see anywhere from 40 to 80 patients a day. I mean, super, super high volume. And my partners think I'm crazy. And that's fine. I'm an outlier. I'm definitely a pioneer, and I'm proud of that I'm able to really look at the future of health and where we're going. And look, we are experiencing a men's health pandemic that is really not getting the attention it deserves, where testosterone levels are plummeting, infertility is rising. And I like to say, to kind of shake people up, if we don't do something in 20 years, the entire population is going to be impotent and infertile. And it's not getting any attention. And so I'm really focused on that. So to answer your question, my partners think I'm crazy, and that's okay, because I have much bigger dreams and goals.
Everybody thought Elon Musk and Steve Jobs was crazy. So you're in good company.
There you go. I'm proud of that.
You're in really good company. But so you got into, let's call it preventative health or integrative health or wellness, let's say. What were your biggest challenges? Like, was there anything that helped
Yes.
launch you? Did you have to figure it out yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. Great question. Men, we are simple creatures. As you know, men are very simple creatures where we want a simple, easy button. And I know other men's health centers as well as Gapin Institute, we see a lot of men with weight gain, with low testosterone, with erectile dysfunction or sexual performance issues. And these guys just want a simple, easy, simple answer. They want the easy button. And so they come in, the biggest challenge is, hey, just give me my Viagra and let me leave. Or, hey, just give me a shot of testosterone and let me leave. And so what I like to emphasize is this concept of going, quote, beyond testosterone, and that, hey, Joe, it's a lot more complex than just giving you a shot of testosterone or giving you this pill. If we don't fix all the underlying issues, if we don't affect every input to your human system, then you're not going to get the success that you're looking for. And so the challenge is to really help men understand that it's a much more comprehensive approach that's needed than just one simple, quick, easy answer like that.
So the world of sick care, where you came from, it was as easy as, if they have this, you do that. If they have this, you operate here. It was basically like a manual, like a troubleshooting manual. Here, it's more integrative, and I guess it requires a lot more of the patients to do something. Like it requires, it's not just you giving the magic pill. And reading through your book, I see where you touch on diet. You talk about the Gapin code. Let's talk a little bit about that. And like, what, if people are listening to this, what can they do?
Sure.
That they don't need a doctor's intervention.
Yeah, great question, Mark. So it comes down to the fact that we need to understand that the human system is very complex, and there's no simple, easy, direct, magical answer that's going to fix all, like a blue pill or like a T-shot. It takes much more than that. And so the Gapin code, it really comes down to two major aspects of it. It's data driven. And so that means we're going to actually look at your genetics to understand specifically what's right for you. What foods should you be eating? What foods should you not be eating? What detox pathways might need additional support, or what, are your risk for certain micronutrient deficiencies, or all kinds of different complexities. But then the other part of the Gapin code is systems based. And what does that mean? That means that the human body is a complex system with multiple inputs. And those inputs may be, I'll give you examples: sleep, stress, nutrition, movement, even things like breathing and mindset. All those are affecting the human system. And so I'll give you a great, to dive a little deeper here. If you have crummy sleep, if you're sleep deprived, if you're only getting 5 to 6 hours of sleep a night, which I work with a lot of high performing men, and they stay up till 1 a.m. working and then wake up at 4 and do it all over again. What you're doing is you're creating elevated physiologic stress levels, elevated cortisol, and that has a trickle down effect on every other system, so that as well as you may eat, as much as you may move, as much as you may load yourself with hormones, you're going to gain weight. And so it's understanding that even things that you think are as simple as sleep are critical to the overall picture. And so when I work with men, I work on sleep and stress mitigation, mindset and hormones and nutrition and detox and fitness and all these other components that are critically important. And so now you can start to see that this big picture is so important, that there's not one single action that's going to fix every problem. And so it's very personalized, and you're right, it takes a lot more work and time and effort, but the rewards are so much greater by being able to really optimize the system.
Now you talked a little bit about measurables and wearables, and I have an Oura ring. I measure my sleep.
Yeah.
I know that I average 5.5 hours of sleep, like clockwork, going back 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Since I've had the ring. And I read that you need 7 to 8 hours of sleep. I always get 5.5. If I try to go to sleep earlier, I'll still get 5.5 hours of sleep, but I'll wake up at 4 in the morning instead of 6 in the morning. Like, is that something like, would you say, are there fixed rules on that? Are we all?
Yeah, great question. So yes and no. Our genetics, we have an internal clock, and these clocks regulate how much sleep our body needs. So some people can actually do fine with as short as 7 hours of sleep, maybe even 6.5 hours, somewhere in that range. But what's more important than overall sleep is actually the quality of the sleep. And so by that I mean we're looking at the different phases of your sleep and how much REM sleep are you getting, and then how much deep sleep are you getting, because the deep sleep is really the restorative sleep. It consolidates memory. It helps with restoring your hormones. It helps with recovery. When you exercise, you're tearing down your muscle. People think, well, if I exercise more, I'm going to gain more muscle. Well, if you don't recover, you're tearing down that muscle when you exercise. The whole point is to recover and build up that muscle. When does that anabolic process happen? It's only while you're sleeping. And so that deep sleep, the quality of that deep sleep and the REM sleep are two phases that are so critically important for different reasons. And so with your aura, I would say, how much REM sleep are you getting? And I would say in general, a rule of thumb is around 2 hours of REM sleep or more is kind of a general target for you. And then your deep sleep should be at least an hour or so every night, give or take. And so, you could use those as some kind of thresholds to see how well are you doing. But a lot of this, Mark, it comes down to the fact that you have ingrained in yourself a process or habits prior to sleep that you've been doing for 20, 30, 40, 50 years now. And a lot of it's coaching. A lot of it's altering your behaviors to optimize the quality of your sleep. And so there are a lot of things that we can do, in those 4 hours before you go to bed to improve the quality and quantity of sleep.
It's interesting. You're right. Like when you talk to like sick care doctors, they don't get into any of that. So like with your patients, you get more into the habits
Yeah,
that
that's right.
go into lifestyle. And I think that's amazing. You talk about mindset a lot in your book. And I'm a big believer in mindset, but why is that? Like, how do people get the right mindset? How do they have
Yeah,
that growth mindset?
sure. Yeah. So, and I want to get back to data because there's other stuff we could talk about there as well. But to answer your question, mindset is, I have this MALE framework, MALE framework, and it's M is mindset, A is aging, age processes, L is lifestyle, sleep, fitness, and nutrition, and then E is environment, like detox and environmental toxins and EMF and gut health and all that. I love that the framework starts with M, because if you don't have your mindset set properly, then you're going to fail. You're not going to be able to do anything else beyond that. And so I emphasize for guys who are struggling with weight gain, low energy and focus, issues with performance in the bedroom, deal with a ton of guys with sexual performance issues. A lot of it, to make the changes that need to be made, it has to start with, what is your why? What's the ultimate reason why you want to make change? And it's typically, not because your wife is nagging you. It's not because you want to fit in those pants that are a little too tight. It's not that. There's a deeper why. For me, that why is being the best dad I can be for my two little kids. Like that's my life. That's everything to me. For some men, it may be to feel loved or to feel like they're valuable to their partner. Every guy has a specific why. And so when I work with guys, one of the first things I dive deep on is, what is your why? Why are you with me? Why are you spending the time, effort, and money to work with me? It can't just be because you want a higher testosterone level or because you want to have sex. It's deeper than that. And so once we get down to that why, then we can really enact change because we have a clear focus on what our goals are. And that's a driving force. Every day there's you're going to be out to eat, and there's dessert or there's the bread when you're first sitting down at the table. There's all these enticing bad habits that may be out there. And it's focusing on your why so that you'll make the right decision every time, because you're living in alignment with your underlying motivations and goals.
Have you noticed the theme of the guys who are coming to see you? Like, is there a thread, or like, do they all have similar whys?
Yeah, a lot of it's being a better dad. A lot of guys feel like they want to feel loved and accepted. And I think that there's a lot of shame, guys who are overweight or guys who can't perform in the bedroom, erectile dysfunction issues, sexual performance issues. it's a confidence issue. It's where men are not confident in how they look, how they feel. They're not confident in their partner loving them and accepting them as they are. And so a lot of it is that. And so a lot of it is getting them to understand that why. And then that really changes the dialogue. Because I'll give you an example. If a guy comes to see me and I say, well, what are your challenges? What brings you in? Well, I want to lose 20 pounds. And his real why is he wants to feel attractive with his shirt off in front of his partner. But let's say I'm able to help him lose 20 pounds and he still doesn't like the way he looks with a shirt off, then I've failed him. Even though I've helped him get the superficial goal that he set, that's not the real goal. It's the underlying driving motivational force. And so that's what the key is really about, is finding out what is your real deep inner why. And sometimes it's emotional, sometimes it's raw. But then we can help really focus our energy and everything is in alignment. And so you see what I'm talking about here. None of this is traditional urology that you're going to hear your urologist tell you about.
Yeah, no, but I think like I was reading the study where right now 85% of healthcare is spent on sick care, maybe 15% is spent on wellness care, but that's going to shift. There's going to be more and more people because the market's out there. These guys are all, and women, they're all looking for a solution. And I think what's been going on with the pandemic sped that up. People have had access to information, which is the other thing that people are talking about now is immunity. And I've been reading about how complicated the immune system is, and we still don't understand how it works. But all these people are asking, what can I do to boost my immunity? How can I stay healthy? Any recommendations on that?
Yeah. So there's a foundational level and then there's a higher fun level, which I'll tell you about. From a foundational perspective, think systems based again. Think that there's no magic one single thing that's going to automatically fix your immune system. But things like gut health, the microbiome, which are the bacteria in our gut, are a very strong influence on our immune function. And so those of us who are eating tons of refined, processed, packaged foods with refined processed sugars and vegetable oils, canola oil, safflower oil, all of those omega-6 laden polyunsaturated vegetable oils, all of those chemicals are disrupting our microbiome. And that has a direct effect on our immune system. And so one of the big things we look at when we're trying to boost immune function is first and foremost, fix the gut. Other doctors have said that your health begins and ends in the gut. And I do believe that's very accurate. And so gut health is really important. Nutrition is a big part of that. Optimizing our micronutrient levels are really critical as well. Again, sleep and stress and activity, all those things are very important in terms of a general picture of optimizing health.
Let me just ask you, like going back, because I'm fixated on the whole thing about how you like to measure things, and how do we measure? Do you have a way to measure somebody's micronutrient levels or gut health or?
Yeah, great question. So there are a number of tests out there for micronutrient testing to actually evaluate levels. And when I work with men, that's a big part of what I do. I evaluate very complex labs, looking at hormone levels, looking at cardiometabolic labs, looking at markers of inflammation, looking at lipid particles, looking at micronutrients, looking at really in-depth labs that help us understand that better. Yeah. And then for the microbiome, there are tests out there, commercially available tests that will help evaluate your microbiome as well. So I'm big on data, whether it's, you mentioned a wearable tech device like Aura, or, I love the Garmin, the Whoop and the BioStrap and the Halo. All these devices have various pros and cons. Another big aspect of measuring data that's really becoming more and more common among high performers that I work with is CGM, or continuous glucose monitoring. And I do that myself as well. It involves putting a small sensor on your arm that measures your blood sugar continuously. And the key for that is we can track your glucose levels and understand how your behaviors are immediately impacting your blood sugar. And I'll give you some examples. I used to, in the past, think that sugar-free popsicles were a great treat to take at night. You know, after a couple hours after dinner, I'm hungry. I don't want to eat any sugar or dessert. And so I would have a couple sugar-free popsicles. And that sounds like a pretty safe and benign dessert. Well, with CGM tracking, I found that it actually caused my blood sugar to slightly elevate when you wouldn't expect that from a sugar-free dessert. And that's because your system sometimes sees sugar-free foods as actually sugar, the way insulin responds. So
that's fascinating, actually.
It is. It's fascinating. The other part of it is then I can see what foods I eat affect my blood sugar. So, you know, for example, I will have, and this is me personally, everyone's uniquely different, and this is where CGM comes in. I can eat white potatoes. I can eat white rice. I can have red wine, and those don't touch my blood sugar. This is from me tracking. I know that those things don't touch my blood sugar. But things like oatmeal for me. Oatmeal is a great complex carb that I used to recommend for every guy. If you're going to have breakfast, have some protein and have some, if you're going to have some complex carbs, oatmeal is a great choice. For me, it spikes my blood sugar. Huge spike in blood sugar. Now, if you eat protein, chicken breast, Greek yogurt, fish, meat, any kind of protein before you eat the carbs, it dramatically lowers the impact that it has on my blood sugar. You would only know that by tracking your blood sugar and seeing how these foods interact with your system.
So you have an app that you put in what you're eating, and then it's continually tracking it, so you can actually trace it back to what food causes the spike.
Exactly. So I have on my app, on my phone, I have an app that tracks my blood sugar. And in that app or in a separate app, I can put in everything I'm eating, and you can line them up and you can see very clearly what the effect is. So for example, I love fruit, and fruit is okay. I'm not here bashing fruit, but if you eat fruit by itself versus eat fruit with protein before it, massive difference for me personally on my blood sugar levels. And again, this is data that ultimately affects inflammation. It affects your ability to lose weight. It affects everything. And so awesome. It's taking the amazing cutting edge tools that we have at our disposal right here now today and using them to our advantage.
So the old school, the sickness way is we wait until your hemoglobin A1C levels get above a 5, 7, or 6, and then we start giving you a pill, and hopefully it dips it down.
Yeah.
Your
exactly.
way is let's keep glucose. So where should we keep glucose levels? When we should go higher, no higher than 100, 130?
Yeah, great question. So fasting, like when you wake up in the morning, fasting blood glucose level should really be 90, 95 or so, in that kind of ballpark range. You don't want to see it fasting over 100. Now, when you wake up, shortly after you wake up, you do have a surge in cortisol. The morning rise in cortisol can stimulate a slight rise in your blood sugar, and that's okay. But in general, when you first wake up, your fasting sugar should be around a 90 to 95. Now, after you eat, in general, you'll want to try to keep your blood sugars typically under 140. For a normal human, we should have it under 140. The problem is most people eat these meals that are high in refined simple sugars, and that's going to make your blood sugar spike. And so, you know, this is really how we use biometric data to see how your behavior is affecting your blood sugar, to see how you're, you know, a great example for me is when I have a crummy night of sleep. If I tried to cheat and stay up too late to get some work done, I pay the price for it the next day. And I see it in my stress levels on my wearable tech device, my heart rate variability, which is a surrogate or a marker for stress levels. I see it in my glucose levels from my continuous glucose monitor as well. And so that's how we use data to give you real direct feedback on how your lifestyle is having a massive impact on your health.
So I remember you were mentioning that you got into this journey, you were 25 pounds overweight. You thought there was a better way out there. Would you say like the constant glucose monitoring, was that probably the biggest thing that helped you with weight loss, or was there anything else when it came to hormones, peptides, anything else you did that you would?
Yeah, great question. The CGM for me, I had not used that way back when I first started doing this. The CGM is something that I've really introduced this year recently to kind of take it to the next level. A lot of it is about optimizing hormones, first of all. optimizing sleep, and following that MALE framework and focusing on the foundational aspects of it. Once you get the foundation down, that's when you can start adding some peptides in there. And I'm glad that you brought up that concept, because peptides are a great, amazing way that we can really take health in a very precision-based approach to the next level. And so to answer your question, for me, it was all foundational, optimizing my hormones, get off my ass and move, eat the right foods, go to bed when I'm supposed to, take the right supplements, and repeat, rinse, wash, repeat.
It's all,
it's boring. It's boring, but it works.
It's all about processes. Your body doesn't like change. You change it too much, your body gets out of whack. And finally, you talk about the E and male environment.
Yes.
But how do you, like, when you say environment, like, how do we know when we're in a bad environment? What's contributing to that? And what should we do to protect ourselves?
Yeah. So there's a phrase called endocrine disruptor. And endocrine disruptors are any chemicals or toxins that interfere with normal endocrine function. And so the reason I mentioned that is this testosterone pandemic that we're experiencing, I believe wholeheartedly that the number one, the biggest underlying factor, the etiology, the cause of it, is endocrine disruptors. And so when we talk about our environment, it's eliminating exposure to these endocrine disruptors. And the real challenge is that these toxins, chemicals are everywhere. So I'll give you an example. Plastic water bottles. We go through about 1 million bottles a minute on this planet, and plastic water bottles, they're made with phthalates and BPA. And both of those are chemicals that have been shown in hundreds of studies to crush testosterone levels, to cause inflammation. They can affect fertility. They can affect immune function. They can cause weight gain and so on. We could look at plastic food containers that are made from phthalates, for example. We could look at K-cups, coffee K-cups. Those are made with BPA and phthalates. We can look at our personal care products like our soap and our laundry detergent and our sunscreen and our deodorant and our shampoo and so on. And all these chemicals that are used to make these products have been shown in studies to very clearly cause disruption of normal endocrine function. That's why most other countries, most other developed countries in the world have banned these products. But yet for some reason here in the US, they're still allowed. Our corn crops in Midwest, they are sprayed with an herbicide called atrazine. And atrazine is the second most commonly used herbicide here in the country behind glyphosate. Herbicide is a weed killer. And atrazine has been shown in animal studies to actually turn male frogs into female frogs that can actually reproduce and lay eggs. And this chemical is sprayed on our crops. And if you test your urine, I'll guarantee you that we're going to detect markedly elevated levels of atrazine.
And you can test that.
You could test for that. Yeah, absolutely. Estradiol, women's birth control. It's a very hardy resistant molecule that does not get broken down very easily. And our water treatment plants are inept, they're incompetent, they're incapable of filtering estradiol. And so I like to joke that every man out there, you're on birth control because estradiol is in your drinking water. And so this is why I recommend no plastic water bottles. I recommend filtering your water with a charcoal or carbon block filter to get rid of these chemicals and estradiol. I recommend being careful with what kind of containers you use for your food. I recommend organic grass-fed meats if you're going to eat meat. I recommend organic vegetables otherwise. I recommend being very careful with what personal care products you use, and be sure you're looking at the ingredients. And there's some tools out there that you can actually identify which products are safe and which are not.
Where are those tools? Is it just a website you can direct them to?
Yeah, so there are a couple great apps that you can get on your phone for free. The Environmental Working Group has an app called Healthy Living. Again, it's free on your phone, and you can literally scan barcodes of products and it'll show you the ingredients and it'll tell you whether it's safe or not based on the chemicals that are in there. There's another one called Yucca, or YUKA, and then a third one called Think Dirty. And all three of those are great apps. They're all free. When you're literally, my wife will be at Target and she'll be scanning the products on the shelf to find which ones are clean and which ones are not.
I think that's great to know. And I think the more we educate people, the marketplace will eventually get rid of the bad products, the products that are harming us. Everything else, it's on us, and it's on us to have the right mindset and see a provider like yourself. Anybody listening to this, if they want to take the next step, did they come in and see you? Do you have some sort of coaching program? How can
Yeah.
anybody engage with you?
Yeah, guys can see me here in person in the Sarasota office. I do telehealth as well, especially for men who are in Florida. I'm able to do telehealth and practice medicine directly via telehealth. Guys who are out of state, I have a program set up where they can come in town for a day and we do some advanced diagnostic testing and some coaching. And then I have a higher level integrated program as well for men that incorporates a lot of the data-driven concepts we talked about today with wearable tech. It incorporates genetics, incorporates medical management, and health and fitness coaching as well.
That's amazing. I love the time with you. I think you're the future of medicine. I think when in 20 years, doctors are going to be more aligned with what you're doing. I would strongly recommend reading Male 2.0. It's a great, approachable book. It's a very good read. And to talk to Dr. Gapin, you would go to drtracygapin.com. We're going to have notes. We're going to have links in our show notes. Thank you so much for the time, doctor. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
Take care.